Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 46. I am joined today by Alien Pickle and Mellified. What is going on, fellas?
Hey, this is Mellified. It is a cold day here in Texas. I don't know what happened. I moved here so I didn't have to be cold, but, apparently the weather is betraying my trust.
Yeah.
So, in moments, the windmills will freeze again.
Well, what's funny?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. What's funny is the last time we did a recording, we didn't have any snow here, and then the very next day, we got like a mountain of snow, and I actually had to go out and because I'm part of the community volunteer snowplow crew around here, and so I had to go out and hop in the truck and plow some snow off the roads and stuff like that. So, by the way, good time. I had a lot of fun with that, but yeah. I was complaining about not getting any snow, and then all of a sudden, boo, snow. So it's been freaking cold ever since. So, well, let's dive on into the news. It's also weird that after we did our last recordings, all of a sudden, it's always when we're done doing something and we're out of our news cycle of recording the news that some big thing happens to drop. And we've got 2 weeks now where we have to wait before we can talk about it, but the rest of the world has already talked about it. So I'm just going to get the elephant in the room kind of out of the way about the fact that Microsoft Xbox has announced its intention, and there's a big distinction there because they've announced their intention to acquire Activision Blizzard. So basically what this means from a legal sense is they don't own them yet. There's a whole process that Microsoft has to go through first before they make this an official thing. So it's going to take a year plus to do all of this stuff, to go through all the proper channels. So it's just there's a plan in motion to make it happen that both parties are agreeing to is what this is.
So what else do they have to do?
Government regulators have to approve it. They have to get all the shareholders to approve it on both sides.
Right.
It's there's legal stuff they have to do.
It's because it's such a huge purchase of six. It was close to $69 billion. It was 68.7 or something like that. So it's darn near 69 billion. That's with a B. dollars, and that's just insane, stupid money. But apparently Microsoft had 120 billion in cash reserves because their plan is to buy this with cash, which is just stupid money. Who actually has cash?
I'm surprised they didn't offer up NFTs or something. Just be like, hey, we'll pay for it in NFTs.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that's such a crazy thing. But when and if this goes through, that will now mean that Microsoft owns all of the craft games, right? They'll have Minecraft, they'll have StarCraft, they'll have Warcraft. The big three craft titles that are out there.
Well, it's soon to be the big four because Blizzard apparently for 5 years has been working on some open world craft.
So that was the other thing that I was going to mention is who knew that Blizzard was working on some stupid survival crafting game for the last 5 years, because this is the first time I'm hearing about it, but PC Gamer put out an article about this. Mellified, did you know about this?
I left Blizzard in 2014, so this must have been spun up just after I left. But I'm surprised. I can't imagine what Blizzard would be doing with a survival game, frankly.
Yeah,
unless it was MMO with a subscription.
Well, what's weird to me is this whole thing with Blizzard is they've been of course on top of all of the ridiculous things that they've been dealing with and all of the bad PR and press and decision making that they've been doing. There's still no sign of Overwatch 2. We still don't have a Diablo 4. The Diablo mobile game apparently is coming out this year. It's already in alpha beta on select users. Some of these users are actually streaming it on Twitch. But with all of this stuff that's going on, it's weird to find out that Blizzard has a survival game that they've been in development for the last 5 years. Considering
how are they streaming it on Twitch? They're holding their phone up to the webcam.
Jim, that is such a silly question.
They have phones, don't they?
I mean, there's mobile apps, right? Or there's apps for the PC that they use. I mean, I see a lot of people streaming stuff with like BlueStacks or other Android emulators on the PC. Man, come on.
Okay,
come on. Plus, there's also streaming apps like on the phone that allow you to like connect it to the computer to do stuff too. There's all kinds.
I was going to say, like, there's an opportunity here for Elgato to make like a Stream Deck thing for your phone, right? Like a little dongle you plug in that captures the phone screen.
Well, I think Streamlabs even has an app that lets you stream your phone to Twitch and stuff like that too. So, but anyway,
also gross. All right.
I digress. But the point being is there's a lot of weird stuff going on around all this stuff. So anyway, elephant out of the way on that one. Just kind of like clear the air on that. I personally think that if this goes through, this is going to be a good thing for gamers. I think that there's a lot of hyped animosity. I think people are a little paranoid about antitrust bullshit. I think people are a little paranoid about Microsoft locking all of their stuff to exclusivity to PC and Xbox, which I also think is a little paranoid. I think people need to like
really?
Yeah, I think people need to like wait it out and see what happens. I think I mean there is a good possibility that a lot of stuff moving forward will be exclusive to the Xbox Windows platform, but there's so much entrenched stuff with like Activision and Blizzard that is so cross play and vital to the ecosystem of some of those games that I think it would service Microsoft for making a profit to continue to allow some of these third-party titles in their arsenal to continue to be on other platforms. I think
when I fire up my PlayStation and I've got like an Xbox app on the PlayStation,
I don't think that's the thing. I think like
no, but it would be great, wouldn't it? Remember whenever they were like, "Hey, we're gonna have like Xbox streaming on the Switch," and everybody was like, "Say what?" And that still isn't there, right? Like there is no Xbox store on the Switch yet, but it sounds cool.
Well, I guess what I mean by this though is like with Call of Duty, I think the big thing was like Call of Duty. Apparently, there's a big market for Call of Duty on the PlayStation, and I think there's a lot of people that play Call of Duty on the PlayStation, and I think that's such a huge market for Microsoft to continue to earn revenue from putting their games on PlayStation's ecosystem and not just lock it into an exclusive thing over on another. Because Microsoft's I know that Microsoft's whole thing is about enabling people to play the games where they want, when they want, kind of a thing. And if there's already a built-in like market for people to play it on a certain platform existing as of their purchase, it would be, I mean, it would entice people to come over to Microsoft, sure, but I don't know. I just think there's still a chance that we'll see.
I will say, here's why I think you're wrong. Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 are Xbox PC exclusives.
Right.
And those are Bethesda games that Microsoft acquired that were in development when Bethesda was acquired, and they were announced for PS4 or PS5. And now they're no longer going to be published on those platforms. The Call of Duty apparently has 3 years before the agreements with Sony run out. So Call of Duty will be on PlayStation for 3 more years, and then I think it's going to go away.
And that might be
Call of Duty entirely goes away, you mean?
Goes away from PlayStation.
From PlayStation.
It'll be PC and Xbox exclusive.
And that might be.
I think they need to take a few years off and just stop.
Well,
let people just
that's
get hungry for it again.
That's another argument that I think is a valuable one. But I mean, I think Mellified might be onto something with that. I think that could be an appropriate thing. Is like we'll see another 3 years of it on Sony, and then maybe after a little while. Because maybe Microsoft will help them take it into a different direction to where it makes sense for it to be exclusive on Xbox and not, go to the PlayStation. Like, I think there's time there for them to allow for it to become an exclusive. And I think that's going to be the case for a while because there's so much entrenched stuff with Blizzard and Activision that I think to try and remove it, the existing stuff immediately would be detrimental. I think it would probably break a lot of things in the process trying to I think taking their time to maybe make them exclusive to the ecosystem of Microsoft. But I think then again, that is exactly something that Phil Spencer and Xbox, which is interesting because it was kind of like slyly announced that he's going to be the new CEO of Xbox games, essentially. Like it's a new thing. Like they didn't really like latch on to that when they made that announcement. But if you're paying attention, that's a new thing. That's a new title for him. It's going to be a new situation.
New business unit.
New business unit. Yeah. So that's kind of a big deal. And I think, well, shoot, we'll go into it now on some of these things too, because I think what's going to be interesting here, there was another article from TechSpot about how Sony could respond to Microsoft's acquisition by acquiring maybe potentially EA or Ubisoft or Take-Two or whatever it is as like a response to this. And I was like, well, I don't think Sony making other purchases on their end is going to be the answer to what Microsoft is doing specifically, because not only is Microsoft's making purchases, those are moves, Microsoft's making moves, but Microsoft also is making moves in other directions too. They're not just pushing their console anymore. It's a whole division of gaming, right? So it's not just Xbox, it's PC, it's cloud, it's mobile. Like it's this whole thing about gaming as a whole unit rather than just focusing on games for a single console. And so because of that, because their heads are in an ecosystem rather than a platform, I think that's the answer that Sony needs to give to this, is also come out with their own ecosystem rather than focusing on the PlayStation as a platform. And if they can get more wrapped around that and maybe make a purchase, maybe buy Ubisoft. I think Ubisoft would be the better choice for them to buy rather than EA. I don't think, when you look at the controversies around Sony's problems in the past with accounts and all that stuff, and then you look at EA's current trend of putting out, broken games that then take years to fix, I don't think that's a good mix for Sony and EA, honestly. But I think maybe Ubisoft, if they were to buy anything, would be the better thing to buy. I don't see them buying Take-Two, but maybe buying Take-Two, but that's my thought process, but maybe I'm not getting like the full picture here, but
well, I don't know that Sony has the money to compete with these big acquisitions that Microsoft is doing.
Not on that scale, and I think that article talked about that too. Sorry.
Yeah. So like that's the part that doesn't make sense to me, is Sony is just not Microsoft has all this money that they can pull in from their cloud business, which is extremely successful, Microsoft Azure. So yeah, I mean, granted,
Ubisoft and Take-Two are worth less than 70 billion. They're like 9 and 12 respectively, which is a little bit easier to swallow. But that's a lot to invest in on trying to quote unquote counter what Microsoft is doing. I don't think a blow to blow thing like that is going to be the response. I really do think Sony needs to invest heavily and respond with its own ecosystem. That's where the competition's going to be. And I think they've started. I think they've started, right? Like I think that they're slowly rolling out games on the PC, for example. I think, they're later this year they're supposed to roll out their own cloud solution that's like Game Pass, that combines these two existing platforms that they have into one kind of thing. So I think if they can get on the Game Pass level and then continue to release stuff on PC as an answer to that, so it gives that, it keeps their revenue up, right? Because now they're selling stuff on the PC to PC players, so they can still continue to make revenue that way. Yeah, but this idea of purchasing their own stuff as an answer just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I think Sony. I think Sony is going to have a tough time. Like, I just don't think that they are going to be able to compete with Microsoft in the same way. Microsoft is changing the business model for being a console game developer, right? They're focusing on subscription revenue. They're going multi-platform, PC and console for everything. I mean, friggin' Age of Wonders is coming to console. You're getting Microsoft Flight Simulator on Xbox. Like, they are making these concerted efforts to give consumers the choice of where they want to play their games. And it doesn't matter to Microsoft because they make money either way. I was commenting in our Discord the other day. I realized I had been buying games on Steam that I already owned on PC through the Microsoft Store because I bought it on Xbox and it's a PC Anywhere title and I get the PC version for free. And I was like, holy shit, I can refund like $100 worth of games that, because I didn't realize, I didn't even think to check whether it was a PC Anywhere title. But more and more games are becoming PC Anywhere or Games Anywhere, Xbox Anywhere, whatever the hell the branding is. But cross buy, where you buy the Xbox, you get PC, or you buy it on PC, you get Xbox. So like, that's really consumer friendly. That's really and again, it doesn't matter to Microsoft because they made their money. They're happy, right? If you bought it from them, they took 30% or 12% or whatever it is, but they made their money. So they don't care if you play it on Xbox or PC. And I like that feature, one, because I do tend to buy games on both platforms, but also because a lot of those games have cross-save. So even if the game doesn't have a global cross-save solution, if it's Xbox Anywhere, the Xbox version and the PC version share a save file through Xbox Cloud Saves.
Right.
So that's awesome because then I can play it on whatever platform I want. If I'm in the family room, I can play on the Xbox. If I'm in my office, I can play on the PC.
And here's the thing that I've really been noticing too is the Xbox app. I mean, when it first came out, it was really buggy and clunky, but over time it's become easier to use, easier to find games, easier to install games. I feel like it's gotten better. I've been, I've recently played through all of Halo Infinite this way through their the Xbox app on PC there, and so like I've really been kind of enjoying their ecosystem a little bit. It still needs some work. It still needs some refinement. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do think that it's easier on the eyes than Steam. Like I think Steam's gotten so big that it's just like, there's features and stuff in Steam I don't even know exist. Like it's so funny that like I'll stumble upon something. I was like, I didn't realize Steam had this. Like it's just weird because there's just so much going on in Steam these days.
Well, they tried to compete with Discord and they built a whole social system into Steam, and I don't know anyone who uses it. But it's all there, it's all in the way. When
like we have, like they've had groups for the longest time. They've had friend lists for the longest time in Steam, right? Like we have a Steam group. We don't use our Steam group, but at least I haven't. Like I've rarely posted stuff in there. Like we have a curators page even, where I've thrown up some reviews on our curators page. But like. It just to me, and it's not to say that it's not used, but it's a system that I just don't try to navigate because to me it's not worth the effort.
Well, it's done better other places, I feel like, and at the end of the day, I just want whatever's easiest. Now, I will say what's interesting about the Xbox app was Microsoft originally tried to make this whole crazy encrypted file system within Windows.
Yeah, what did they call that? It was some like Windows.
I can tell you what I called it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could. We're trying to keep this family friendly, but yeah. No, but it's XVD is the file extension that it uses, but I don't remember what the name of the.
Well,
the thing is.
they're slowly doing away with that. Like that.
What I was just gonna say is the Xbox now just goes into C:\Xbox games and it installs it like a normal app, and you can go in there and look at the files. You can throw mods in there. Like they've realized finally,
and
I think they need to be.
And I think the big catch with this, with the mod stuff was when they put MechWarrior 5 on the store, and they were like, hold on, mod support, like, and it's like, we're not going to be able to play this because we can't put mods on it. And like, I think that's where Microsoft started to realize, and so then they made it work in a weird way. They made like a mods directory that would tie into the game, and it became this whole clunky thing. But now they're slowly doing away with that because it's like for forever, PC gamers have had access to these game files because people love mods. And I think Phil Spencer's well aware of that. And the last kind of story I wanted to tie into with this, and the reason why I say this kind of stuff is because I think time and again, Phil Spencer has proven to me, and this is why I drink the Microsoft juice, is he wants to revive old Activision Blizzard games. This is something that, like, Blizzard has come out time and again. There was like people on panels that were like, you think you want this, but you don't. I was like, do you realize the amount of people that would buy your retro games if you were just to sell them? Do you realize that if you were just to put them out there, people would buy them up like that? Because there's no modern way to digitally play these games or to digitally acquire them because their CDs are scratched, or maybe they've lost it over time, or they don't, whatever it is. And so eventually they put out Diablo 1 and Warcraft 1 and 2 out on GOG. I bought that stuff up instantly because I was like, that's way easier than trying to dig out my disc and trying to plug in my USB DVD player to try and install it on my computer if I want to. It's better than trying to go and torrent it or where's it or go to like, iffy websites.
Sure.
If I can legally purchase it from you in a digital way, I will. And there's tons of people who will too. And I'm so excited to see that if this acquisition goes through, that this is on the mind of Phil Spencer, that he is aware of this. And I think that it'll help with their licensing issue because, they ran into a wall. This could potentially help them with bringing back other games that they couldn't because of licensing issues.
One of the things that I was thinking about quite a bit with this acquisition, especially with the almost $70 billion price tag, is Microsoft has development teams that are sitting around that could be working on the next Spyro game, the next Crash Bandicoot, the next whatever from Activision's back catalog that we haven't seen in 10 years in many cases. I mean, Christ, Pitfall, I remember playing the hell out of that game on the Atari 2600, man. And that Activision owns that IP, man. That is theirs. So a modern reboot of Pitfall could be in the works for Microsoft because they own the IP now by owning Activision Blizzard. And Activision isn't interested in developing those. They're not interested in developing anything but Call of Duty. But Microsoft can take all that back catalog IP and farm it out to other studios that they own or contract out with, and we could see a ton of new games that from franchises we haven't seen in a long time. And I think that's really interesting.
I'm Jim. This one's for you, but Hyperblade. I want a modern version of Hyperblade. I would play that all day.
You're the guy.
I'm the one. Like I will buy a copy for myself and all my friends. Like I loved that game. Did you guys ever play? Like, I know Jim did, but Melify, did you play Hyperblade?
It came with when you bought a 3DFX card back in the day, right? It's like you got Hyperblade with it.
I do not remember even what that game is.
So it's a futuristic like hockey football style game where the dome is inside of like a big oval football shaped like arena, and it's a 3-man team, so you have 2 players and then a goalie, right? And so it was like hockey meets like rugby meets like deathmatch. So like your player could get killed and decapitated, and then like the other team could use your head as the puck to score a goal with. Like
Wow. Okay.
But like there was like a whole like, you know, it was like, you know, Boston playing New York. Like there was a whole thing of like a league of teams and like this futuristic like sporting event. And that I was like, I because it was original. I thought it was like an original idea. It was a sports game that wasn't traditional, right? So it was very much its own idea of sports. And with the realm of esports and with the realm of like MOBAs and all these other things, I think coming up with something wholly unique that's like just a different game entirely that is sports based. I think there's something there, honestly, with Hyperblade. But I'm the guy. I'm the only one who thinks that, probably. But whatever.
Hey, I fully support the return of what the hell was that called? It was something ball brutal deluxe, Speedball.
Yes,
Speedball brutal deluxe.
Yep.
Which was a very Bitmap Brothers kind of game, but it was basically like death hockey without.
Yeah, I
skates.
do remember that one.
Well, I mean, because like back in the day, in like the early 2000s, or like late 90s, early 2000s, they had like street basketball games that they were putting out. They were doing. I mean, they were doing like the XFL was a thing for a little while. So like, you know, there's all kinds of things out there that you could do that's not your standard like 2K, like, you know, basketball or Madden, 2030 or whatever it is. Like, you know. Do something fun, because like there's gamers out there that may not like your average sports, but when you put like a twist on it that becomes a little bit more interesting, then that's when I get when I get interested, because to me that's just like I don't have to take this seriously.
Why has the LFL never gotten a game?
The
lingerie football league.
Or I found out the other day, thanks to Facebook for some reason, about the Micro Wrestling Federation.
Is that Little People?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
But it was awesome because they were doing like interviews with like the different wrestlers, and I was like, you know what, you guys found a thing that you love, and I'm proud of you for it. You know, like it's not my thing, but I was just like, look at you guys doing your stuff. Like, I think that's awesome, and there's a market out there for it, so go for it. You know, but.
Dinklage isn't enthused though.
There's also a Little People rodeo. I know. I've seen here in Texas. So
that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
As a matter of fact, I remember when I was in high school, there was a group of ladies that was trying to get a ladies rodeo team together to actually go and compete, and they got it. They actually were able to petition it and get it going. So
nice. Well, I think Microsoft has been shaking up the industry, whether you love them or hate them or somewhere in between, right? You can't deny that they are making bold, big moves this generation.
Well, hasn't gaming always been about innovation, right? And moving the marker forward? Because I feel like for so long we were just stale. It was just like, well, here's another game that's kind of like this other game. Here's another roguelite. Here's another 4X. Here's another. I was like, that's cool and all if you're into those genres, but like, who's moving this forward as far as like the technology, the industry, like more accessible, more tools, more developers? Like, where who's doing that? And I know that we shill sometimes for them without even being sponsored, but you know, especially I got an invitation the other day, but even we don't have a studio, but I got invited to the ID program, the ID Azure thing. I got an email the other day at OtherWorldsGG about it. And I looked at the application. I was like, well, we don't have a studio and we don't have a website, so can't apply for this. But it was interesting to read about, because I was just wanting to get in as like a press thing to kind of go look at it, you know, but they don't have that available at the moment. But anyway, moving on.
I think Discord channel is our studio though.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. Discord.otherworlds.gg is our studio. But like, moving on with the rest of the news, speaking of EA, we talked about EA earlier. EA announced that they're going to be releasing not one, not two, but 3 new Star Wars games. One of them is going to be a sequel to the, I would say, pretty successful Jedi Fallen Order game. So we're going to get a sequel to that. They've also announced a new strategy game, And something else I don't remember off the top of my head. The thing that this reminds me of is the ever like telling tale of EA, which is we're releasing Star Wars games and we're going to cancel all of them but like 2. And so, because they talked about like we're developing a big open world game, it gets canceled. Well, we're developing this like underworld kind of criminal game. Well, it gets canceled. Well, we're developing this other canceled. And you're just like, holy crap, can you guys put out a Star Wars game, please? And so they after Battlefront, they finally did
Fallen
Order, and then they did the Squadrons thing. Now Squadrons is mixed reviews, because it's definitely not a Rogue Squadron. It's definitely not an X-Wing or TIE Fighter game. It's its own weird thing. I would say it's kind of like a weird mashup of Battlefront, honestly. They took the space stuff from Battlefront and kind of turned it into like its own...
Somebody pointed out that with the lanes that you have and all the AI fighters in Squadrons, that it's actually a MOBA.
The multiplayer thing, the multiplayer mode, yes, the multiplayer is 100% a MOBA. The whatever the assault mode, whatever it is, where you have to go and assault the other team's capital ship or whatever it is. That's very much a MOBA. It doesn't look like it at first, but like when you really break down the elements, it's 100%. Because you have mobs,
gameplay.
You have mobs, you have lanes, you have all of those elements. That's all in there. And
the capital ships are the towers, right? Like
right.
it's the gameplay of a MOBA just translated into the fighter skin.
Are you talking about the new one?
Squadrons.
Yeah, Squadrons. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely like exactly that. But the maps, even though there are like a bunch of different maps, they're all the same map. Because ships are always in the same arrangement.
Because that's a MOBA,
they need to change that, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like it would have been much more interesting had each of the maps also had a randomized ship composition. This time there's 2 Star Destroyers, and
here's the other thing though. Like when you compare this to games of the past, like specifically, it's arguable if it's the best one in the lineup. But when you look at X-Wing Alliance, with its customization features for for custom scenarios and multiplayer, like you can have huge battles, and they can all be based around however you want to try and do them, whatever scenario that you want to try and make. If you want it to be just fighters versus fighters, you can do that. You can have primary objectives and secondary objectives. It's an actual space combat Star Wars simulator thing that you can build out. And especially with the modding community today, they've really made that game look real pretty and added in a ton of new content to play with. And it's a shame that we got what we got. And the story was not very original either. That was my complaint about Squadrons, but this is not a review show. But anyway, speaking of Star Wars, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga finally gets a release date. I believe is in the next couple of months, if I'm not mistaken.
March, I think.
Yeah. I've been following this for some time. They announced this game a while ago. It's actually been on like Steam's website for a couple of years, I think. And so they finally are going to put it out. I watched the video of it and I was actually kind of excited about some of the gameplay element changes that they're doing. They're making combat a little bit more compelling, a little bit more challenging. You have to do it a little bit more. Like there's actually health bars on enemies now, rather than like it takes 2 shots to take that down, takes 3 shots to take that down. Like it may not be that way moving forward. And they've definitely polished some things up. So instead of making like individual games because they made a Force Awakens Lego game, but then after that they did not make a Rise of Skywalker or whatever episode 8
the last one was.
Yeah.
Now I would completely support if they made a TIE Fighter X-Wing style of Lego game.
Well, they've got the space combat in this, so they're putting in space combat into this.
Yeah, but I'm saying they could do like, this is an excellent excuse to remake X-Wing Alliance or whatever yet again,
but with Lego.
Do it Lego, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lego seems to be like the movie game thing now, right? Because you used to have like a game that was like a tie-in to the movie, and I think Lego kind of arbitrarily became that after a while because they have all of like the Harry Potters in Lego, they have all the Lord of the Rings in Lego, they have all the Hobbit, Marvel, DC, all of that stuff is like in a Lego Batman, Indiana Jones. You know, all that stuff is now built into a Lego game, and I think that's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant way to do a tie-in game with an IP.
Plus you're not restricted to strictly telling the story,
the plot, right?
The plot, right?
Right, because you can have fun with it. Like you can twist it, and you know it becomes entertaining. You're still following the general overall story, but there's silly things in between because it's Lego. I 100% approve of this media. All right.
I just feel like all the Lego games are kind of samey. You know, it's run around, break a bunch of stuff.
Which is why I only play a couple of them. The gameplay loops are definitely similar, but like what you do and the cool things that you do within them are a little bit different. So like I only play the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potters and the Star Wars ones. I did the Jurassic Park one, but all the other ones are kind of Marvel and DC are not compelling enough for me to play them. So
see, it's a shame because the Lego City Undercover, which I will promote every time I get a chance, is the best Lego game, period, hands down. And one of the reasons is because it's an open world, unlike every other Lego game, which may have a hub world, but the missions are, you know, most of the time it's a series of missions. There are, I guess, a couple of the Marvel ones are open world now, to be fair. But it was the first open world one, and it is set up where you get all kinds of interesting upgrades by completing different things in the game. So I think they're called red bricks in the game, and I think the average Lego game might have 10 to 20. Lego City Undercover had 40 red bricks that you could collect that gave you various upgrades, and it made the game a lot more interesting and a lot more fun and dynamic. And I really am surprised that Traveler's Tales, the developer, hasn't taken more of the ideas that worked so well in Lego City Undercover and used them in the other Lego games, because that came out when it was a Wii U launch title. So that was what, 10 years ago now?
Yeah, I think so.
2008 was the Wii U, I think. So more than that. So it's a strange thing, but I'm really interested to see what they do with Skywalker Saga, because Lego Star Wars was the first Lego game. The original trilogy was one of the very first Lego games. So I mean, it needs an update to be modern and relevant for sure.
Yeah, they completely from the ground up, I think, redid all of the Saga stuff, and I'm actually really excited to try it because like you guys said, the gameplay loops are very similar. So I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I hope they innovate. Sure.
Yeah. All right, what do we got here that's next?
Crisis 4 is coming out. It's been announced. I'm not surprised Crisis 1 through 3 got a remaster recently. It's almost certainly using the same engine as Crisis 4. A lot of times developers will go and port their old games to the new engine as a way to test the engine and refine it for the next game. So no big surprise. We're getting Final Fantasy 14 back after 6 weeks of being off sale because they couldn't keep up with demand. Always a good problem to have, even if it's pretty frustrating for players. But I guess they've kind of caught up with the servers there.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to giving it another go, because I might make a new account because I found out you can play for free up to level 60. So I kind of want to jump in and see what it's all about with a new account. So I'm going to give that a go.
Nice. So the Steam Deck, we got a release date. It's coming out the end of February officially. It'll start shipping. You can, if you pre-ordered for $5, you can go on to Steam and see what your availability date is by going to the Steam Deck order page. It'll show you
Q2 2022 right here, baby.
Mine is Q1, so I hopefully will be getting one of the early.
You suck.
Well, we'll
wonder-
see. I'm not
I
convinced
wonder how
it's
much
actually gonna-
scalping is going to be going on. Like, I bet
Oh,
day one those things are
100
going to be $2,000.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
Well, I've got one
No
guaranteed
doubt.
though, so I'm looking forward to getting it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, what it looks like. Actually use it. We've seen games are getting rated for Steam Deck compatibility now.
If you go to Steam Deck's Twitter page, there is a whole list of posts of different developers playing different games with video footage of them playing the games. So go check out their Twitter page, and you can see some of these games being played on deck. By the developers, because all of the developer versions have been sent out. So
Yep. And we've seen some other news coming out about the Steam Deck itself. Valve is actually putting a lot of work into the Linux drivers, because the Steam Deck natively, it can run Windows, but natively out of the box it's going to run Linux. And they've been optimizing those drivers to improve the battery life, which is going to benefit everybody who uses Linux on a mobile device, which is pretty cool. But more interestingly, Steam is saying they are going to have a feature where the Steam Deck will let you suspend the game and then start playing it on another device.
yeah, that's crazy.
This is something we've even heard about from the consoles, and I don't think we've actually seen it happen. But this is part of like a dynamic cloud sync feature where it's going to save, basically snapshot the game state and then send it over to your other devices through the Steam Cloud. So should be pretty interesting. That certainly makes me excited, because it makes the Steam Deck much more flexible. I can play it in the family room and then go back to my PC and play it on my big screen 4K display. With my high-end graphics card, but I can still take that game on the go, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, moving on with more news here. Watchdogs Legion to no longer receive updates.
Wah, wah.
Not really a surprise here. I have this game and I have yet to even play it. I've got it installed. Just hasn't. I got it with excitement, and then after I got it, I was just hearing more and more people were like, it's meh.
Yeah, I played it some. It's okay.
It's like Watch Dogs turned into Far Cry, where it's just like it is the same game in a difference, like the map changed, but everything's the same. I wasn't a big fan, but then they were like, hey, we're going to make Rainbow Six Extraction, right, which is an asset flip of Rainbow Six. And it's like, I found out like even the aliens and stuff are asset flipped from like some prior event thing that they did. And it's just like, oh, well, that's pretty disappointing. So they put that out for free pretty quick on Game Pass. So if you want to experience it, which I thought was interesting, right? Because that's like the first time that they've integrated Ubi's stuff with the Game Pass deal, like for people that aren't subscribers to the Ubi Unlimited, whatever.
Yeah. It was surprising, I think, because they're hoping the game will have a lot of microtransactions, cosmetic DLC, so they're figuring they'll make their money back on that rather than the game sales. But Watch Dogs Legion had some interesting ideas. I'm just not sure it kind of came together the way that we all would have hoped. So it's a little bit unfortunate. We also got news of the next Elder Scrolls Online expansion called High Rock. It's all about the Bretons and kind of their history. So that'll be coming out in the summer, but you can pre-order it now and get some in-game bonuses.
I got to applaud Elder Scrolls Online, man. Like they keep putting that game's got content for freaking years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like congratulations.
They've kind of they've got a pretty standard like cycle now where they do an expansion in the summer, they do a couple dungeons, and then the next summer they do another expansion. And the expansions are paid upgrades, even if you are a subscriber, but you get the dungeons for free if you subscribe.
Yep.
So
Yep. All right. Well, back to some Xbox news here. It was recently reported that Xbox had the best year of all time in 2021. based on revenue with all of the new Game Pass subscribers, game sales, and all that stuff. So these guys, I guess their content and service revenue was up 8.8%, but their hardware revenue was up 63.3%, which I found a little bit interesting. All
a lot of
considered.
Xbox Series consoles there.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty stellar. So I'm pretty excited for them, pretty happy for them. So good job, Microsoft.
Speaking of breaking records, the Epic Game Store is approaching 200 million users. Now, that would be a little more impressive if they weren't giving away a free game every week.
Yeah.
Or
two. It's crazy.
Sure. So, I mean, that's the majority where those users are coming from, but that's why Epic's doing it, right?
I have a coworker who is like a holdout on Epic, because they were one of those people, like when Epic first started doing all this like store stuff and buying out developers and doing exclusive deals. They're like, screw Epic, they're terrible, and I was like, I think at this point, like, it's kind of just like meh anymore. I think at this rate, like, I think competition's good. I think Epic learned its lesson on some of the things that it did, where it kind of screwed over people that had already bought in expecting to get a game on Steam, so they backpedaled and re-released certain games on Steam after a while because they realized that they broke previously written deals, essentially. But I think the exclusivity thing, I think people need to get over that, because that's just kind of the market of games anyway. Like, it's something that's existed for forever, timed exclusive releases here and there. So I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore, but I was just like, dude, they're putting out free games all the time over on Epic. Like, at least, yeah.
I was gonna say that Daemon X Machina was just released on Steam for $40, and we got it for free on Epic a week later. So that's a pretty compelling deal.
Yeah, I think where they pissed everybody off was with the hey, I'm gonna pre-order this game on Steam, right? And got everybody to wishlist it and whatever, and then the developers were like, well, actually, we're gonna pull our game off of Steam, because we're gonna, and that's where all the bad PR went,
right?
Because otherwise it would have just been like, yeah, whatever.
It was a snafu of like of a situation for sure, but I think now that things have kind of like calmed down and smoothed over, and then his other response was as well, they had account issues, and I got my account hacked like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I was like, well, I mean, that's a long time ago.
Everybody's been hacked,
and it's just like, I think it's not. I don't know. Like, people have their reasons, and they're allowed to have their reasons. I just think at this day and time, the holding out for the saltiness from like 10 years ago is a little much. But
yeah, I mean, I understand not wanting to have multiple launchers on the PC, but that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Like, we are, Ubisoft, Origin, Battle.net. I mean, you're stuck. Yeah,
Rockstar. Yeah,
it's like, I just want all my movies on Netflix.
Yeah. Good luck with that. But it's also like two EA launchers, right? Because they have their current one and their beta one, which is making me salty, because the only way I can do EA Play stuff is with their new launcher, but they don't have all of their games in their new launcher, so I have to use their old launcher if I want to. It's so irritating.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. And honestly, it's why I specifically avoid fucking around with EA stuff on Microsoft's Game Pass. Like, I've got Game Pass stuff for PC. I do not want to install it, because the only way I can get it to uninstall is to like fire up Revo uninstaller and like yank it out of the registry, with a third party app. Because otherwise, like, I can uninstall it and it continues to show up in my Steam list, or the Microsoft list when I open the Xbox app. Right. It will be there forever, because the two apps don't talk to each other. So then I have to go in and gut it out through the registry, and it's just like, this super sucks. I don't understand why they needed to redevelop Origin anyway. I think part of the reason was actually the way that it redeemed codes. Because you could actually redeem something and then pass that code around to your friend, and
Well, the other problem they ran into with the was when they did the EA Play stuff. The EA Play stuff, in order to get that to work, they needed a new launcher, and that was part of it. But anyway. Well,
so
I
don't understand why all their stuff isn't in it yet then, because I thought all of their stuff was.
I don't get it either. Like I don't understand why I have to launch the original launcher just to play 1942. Like I don't get that. Like I don't.
Well,
get
loading
why.
up Origin keeps me from playing Origin games anyway, because I really just don't like going into Origin. And if I haven't run it in a long time, then it forgets my password, which is a bitch because I've already forgotten my password too. So every time I want to play something on Origin, I have to go through a password recovery thing, and it just sucks.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's like we can't even remember your password for you. We're so good.
All right, well, moving right along here. What else do we got?
Let's take a look. So, the drum game series from Japan, Taiko no Tatsujin, and I apologize if I butchered that. I think I got it right. Just recently came out. They had a Switch version that came out in Japan last year, and they released the software on both PC and Xbox. But the game is like a rhythm game, like Rock Band or Guitar Hero, except with drums. But the game is so laggy on PC, it's unplayable, basically, because you can't hit the notes correctly.
Oof.
That's not.
Yeah. Now, you can use different instruments. I actually imported 2 sets of the drums to play the game on the Switch, but with a Brook Xbox Wingman adapter, you can actually plug those Switch drums into the Xbox and play it with the drums. Supposedly, the Xbox version's a little bit better than the PC.
I'm looking at the Xbox app on store right now. On PC, and that game isn't listed anymore, so they must have pulled it.
Oh, okay, yeah, it sounds like it. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to trying it. Hopefully, they'll fix it soon, and hopefully, it's not a huge headache to fix. But it's always
it is there if you search for it, but it doesn't show. It doesn't show in the recently released queue anymore. Okay. But damn, it's a $50 game. Ooh.
Yeah, it's full price release, so they really shouldn't have screwed that up. Is probably safe to say.
Yeah, Bandai Namco, because they also do all of the Sword Art Online games and stuff. They're one of those companies that just doesn't understand PC at all.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, let's start our game full screen at 720p.
Yes.
And then you have to sit through a 15-minute cutscene before we even let you get near an options menu. And, just all the terrible things. I read comments, you can play the Sword Art games with PC or on PC with a keyboard and a mouse. But if you look at the key map, it's all over the keyboard.
Oh.
It's well, we're not going to use the arrow keys, but we're going to use some weird keys JKL and semicolon is the camera keys. It's wow, that's straight out of Vim, guys.
Yeah, yeah. They got some Unix fans apparently running their PC division.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then it's then it's Control and F to do the special attack. It's oof. Monster Hunter Rise is probably one of the Japanese games that gets keyboard control right this time. Even World didn't do it great, but Rise, they figured it out. So I'm happy with that. It still took a couple of rebinds, but not a extensive rebind. And thank God they let you rebind keys.
Yes.
There's a lot of Japanese games that don't even have an option to change keys around.
Yeah, that's always terrible. I've actually seen people who go and make auto hotkey scripts for specific Japanese games to move all the keys around on the keyboard so that it's actually playable.
Yeah.
All right, so there is a fan-made PC port of Ocarina of Time that is apparently going to be coming out.
Oh my God, they remade it in Unreal Engine, and it's awesome.
No, it's not that. So remember that team that did Mario 64? That was like that
Yeah.
that did that had their own little engine thing, but it was essentially the same game, but it was made available to be able to play on.
Yes.
They're doing the same thing here. So I'm
they're
actually
decompiling it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this though, so it'll be interesting. Now there is because of some previous stuff. I guess Take-Two, if you remember, sued those programmers who decompiled GTA. But
Oh yeah,
I'm saddened that happened, especially considering that they put out their own version of a GTA remastered and it was a terrible, terrible flop. I don't even think people are talking about it anymore. But I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm definitely gonna check it out when it comes out.
yeah. So, in other retro news, I am always have been a big fan of the Mister for a while now. We have a couple different updates from the Mister community. So the PlayStation 1 core is making astounding progress. The developer ASUMFPG is his Twitter handle. He is blazing through features and getting this thing up and running. Right now, most of the focus is on the sound aspect of the PlayStation. Now, there was a bit of bad news. The Mister has kind of two options for add-on boards. A lot of people pick the analog board because they want to go out to a VGA monitor. And unfortunately, the PlayStation Core will require a second RAM stick for picture perfect or audio perfect emulation of the sound on PlayStation. It'll work with one stick, but not as well. And only the digital I/O board, not the analog I/O board, supports 2 RAM sticks. So, that's a little bit disappointing, but obviously this thing is still going to work with sound, even if you have the one stick, so people can still enjoy this core. And I know I see people, they're going through and playing the hell out of PlayStation games right now to try and get all the bugs cleaned up. So I expect we'll see this actually released out of beta pretty soon.
That's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We're also getting a Sega Saturn core that's being developed. Not quite as far along as the PlayStation one, but SRG 320 is the developer who's working on that, is very well known in the community for making excellent ports. And the Atari 2600 core has basically been dropped from Mister, and a lot of people would, well, oh my god, why is that? Well, the Atari 7800 actually had perfect emulation of the 2600 or perfect playback of 2600 games. So they've just put their focus on updating the 7800 core, and now it works with both 2600 and 7800 games. We're also getting a couple new computer cores, a couple new arcade cores have come out, and the update all script has gotten a pretty major update to make it work better and faster. So lots of cool stuff going on in the Mister for sure.
Nice, very nice. Little bit of VR news. There was some big waves recently with the new, or at least the early access release of Zenith Mmo. It is on Oculus as well as on Steam. You can get this MMO. We've got a person in our community who has been playing it, and they are giving it rave reviews themselves. They say it's the most fun they've had in gaming in a long time. They say it's a pretty fleshed out MMO from what they're experiencing, so it's got a lot of MMO mechanics to it. But because it's VR, like there's a lot of you have to hold the shield up in front of you to block attacks. You have to do a lot of those kinds of things. So it's a very manual MMO compared to your point and click and hit your action bar items. The one thing he said that was funny is you can make food and beverages and all that kind of stuff in the game. There's actually like a cooking mechanic going on for like heals and stuff like that. So if someone is unconscious, you can actually, or even if they're conscious, but it's meant to be like if they can't do it themselves, you can actually force people to drink like smoothies and stuff like that. So they were explaining to Pickle and I the other night the funny mechanics of forcing people to like eat the food that you make.
It sounded a little bit rapey, Chef, to me, but
yeah, yeah, it's a little cringy, but it was also kind of funny. Like just like the way he was explaining it was funny, but in reality, it kind of seems a little like cringy. So, but
well,
I'm curious about checking it out myself. I would like to, but we'll see.
I think it's worth noting it's on Steam got a 10% launch discount, so you save like $3 or $4. And on Oculus, it is cross-buy between the Quest version and the PC version. So I tend to get stuff on Oculus Store for that reason, because I can play it with the super beautiful graphics off my PC, either wirelessly or with the USB cable, or I can load it up on the headset and just play off the headset with the little bit less fidelity on the graphics.
Yeah, I do wish that more games, whenever it's, play anywhere or whatever, right? So it's, or cross-buy or whatever the term is, because Microsoft uses a different term. Because I was hunting on their site. I'm like, well, okay, with all the sales going on, and I was looking at buying the Golden Axe trilogy thing, and it's like, okay, well, I can get the Capcom like beat 'em up bundle thing on Xbox, or I can get it on the PC. But is it just cross-buy? Can I, if I get it in the Microsoft Store, is it? So then I started looking in the Microsoft Store, and it's just like, I just want a list. Show me everything that's cross-buy. And I really wish that the games, it was like prominently listed, like underneath the game where it says, oh, it's on Game Pass or whatever. Also tell me if it's cross-buy or not. That would be great. Just be like very obvious about it, because I am more apt to buy a game on the Microsoft Store if it is cross-buy, because if it is PC only, then I'm going to get it on Steam. But if it was cross-buy, I would buy it on Microsoft's platform. So that's the way that they're going to get money out of me, is by doing that.
Well, and it's strange because they do have filters, at least on the website, for features, but PC Anywhere or whatever, Xbox Anywhere, is not one of the features you can filter on.
Right.
Which seems like a big miss.
And there is actually a way to do it. If you go onto a Microsoft site for the Xbox and then you dig in the menus, you can actually find a filter that does it. But it's like everything that was on there that was cross-buy was already in Game Pass, basically. So it was just like, well, okay, whatever. Yeah. So the other thing that is of value to me is things that you can cloud play, because it's Xbox 360, right, that I could play on Game Pass. And then it's like, oh, well, I can actually sit here at my PC and play some old 360 stuff. It ain't like I'm going to be loading up Puzzle Fighter or being able to buy that anywhere on PC. So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of neat, but yeah, so the big ticket thing was like Guardians of the Galaxy. When I bought that when it came out, that was not cross-play by whatever. So it was just like, okay, well, I'd have to buy it on PC and again on the Xbox, but oh God, why?
Yeah.
So I just ended up saying, well, you know what, I'll get it on Steam, and if I want to play it on the TV out there, I'll just hook my laptop up, whatever.
Yeah, I think the whole industry could do a better job of advertising this, and I think the reason it doesn't happen is because no store wants to be the one that says, hey, you can go play this somewhere else too. But Microsoft should make it obvious.
Well, yeah, sure. Microsoft, it's just like, hey, you know what, it is PC and Xbox. Like, that's a huge feature. So you guys were talking earlier about PlayStation and their market share, and then Microsoft locking things to the Microsoft platform, and like Call of Duty or whatever. How much of a sigh of relief is it for developers that it's like, oh God, we don't have to port to the PlayStation with their funky chips and the emotion engine or whatever crazy thing that they do in whatever generation, right? Because it used to be like you had to learn how to make your game twice.
Yes.
Right.
The PS4 and PS5 are much closer to a PC than the earlier consoles, as is the Xbox. To be fair.
PlayStation 3, for example. PlayStation 3, I think, was that people said that was pain.
Yeah, I feel like it should just be like they need a standard, right? It'd be like Android. Well, Amazon has Android Fire version. It has its own app store, but it's still Android under the hood. And if you make a game for one, you made it for both, right?
Yes and
So-
no, though. I mean, there's still some caveats, though, because some things don't perform as well as like others. Like, I can install the Play Store on my like Fire tablet or whatever it is, but it doesn't mean everything that like I install is going to work like it's supposed to.
Right. But I guess what I mean is just like if it's a PC, it's a PC. You know, like the hardware is, and then your OS may be a little bit different, but you know, it's like for people that are making PC games, I can make games on the Xbox and all I got to use is DirectX anyway. But then if you go over to the PlayStation, well, obviously they don't have DirectX, so does that mean that I have to like transform all my stuff into OpenGL?
It's not necessarily yes, but I mean, it's not necessarily like.
Well, if you use Unreal, right? If you use Unreal Engine, you push a button and it makes the PlayStation version for you. Now, you may have to do some optimizations, but the engine does a lot of it for you, which helps, I think.
Yeah, so we've reached the point where it's code at once and then hit a button to pipe it out to whatever platform, right? So at that point, it's kind of like the platform doesn't really matter except for hardware difference between. But that would be like if I had one brand a laptop versus another brand a laptop, they're both a laptop that plays games, right? But one may be performing different in different ways than the other. So I feel like Sony and Microsoft, if they just kind of like made it easy on the developers and just said, okay, we have a unified architecture or whatever.
But I feel like
they would have to.
I feel like that's not the point. Like,
well, yeah, but the point was, if you don't have to make shit for the PlayStation, does that make your life easier? And I feel like maybe it does.
I mean, I think the opposite could be said about the Xbox. Like, if you're just making a PlayStation game that you don't have to try and make it for the Xbox, that make your life easier.
Well, yeah, and you see a lot of games that are PlayStation exclusive that just never get ported, right? And it's not because there's some Sony exclusivity, right? Like I was looking at some games from Atlas yesterday, and I'm just like, wow, they never are making PC ports or Xbox ports of this stuff.
I think that's because that's a deliberate decision not because of like they don't want to do some kind of program managing to like make the port. I think that I think that Sony themselves, because they now have the Sony studios like on Steam, for example, and some stuff like on Epic, I think they are making deliberate decisions to port stuff over to PC, but like I think that's kind of what makes Sony, for what it's worth, you may not have heard of them, but Sony, for what it's worth, does have a lot of exclusive games.
I've heard of Sony.
And so, you know, they definitely have their own ecosystem of stuff going on, and they have a huge back catalog. And so it's, you know, I think that's kind of the point between playing where you want. First of all, it's playing where your friends are. So, like, why do you buy a PlayStation? Right. Well, all the people that I hang out with have PlayStations. Okay, that makes sense. Hunter, why are you into Xbox? Well, I primarily play on PC, but Microsoft has been doing a lot with, like, you know, PC these days, and, you know, it just makes sense for me to have an Xbox with my PC, because then I can play, like, you know, 85% of the market out there on gaming, you know, because I have PC and an Xbox. So, but anyway, let's get back to the news here and start wrapping some of this up.
Sure.
In some weird VR news, metaverse advertising could involve tracking your eyes and more, which kind of creeps me out just a little bit, not gonna lie. Because I could arbitrarily be looking at something and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm staring at a pot of water. Does that mean they're trying to sell me a pot now? Like, are they going to send me to like some, you know, kitchenware website? Like,
okay, are they tracking your eyes like off your computer screen, or are they talking about like putting a Tobii eye tracker inside of the next generation of Oculus, which is a thing that's been talked about for a while, right?
Yeah, I think it's inside the headset. So they'd be tracking what you're looking at in VR. So if you're in the metaverse and you're walking down, Central Boulevard and you glance over at the virtual bank, you're going to start getting Wells Fargo ads or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I just look at, like, instead of looking at like what advertisements did people look at, it's more like, hey, if somebody's looking to the side or something, then we pull that more toward the center of their view, because like, let's say you had a game and then there's interface elements that are in the corners, but because it's in the corner, your lens isn't focused to it. So if you actually look down there, it'll draw it up to the center of the screen, kind of thing. It could be used for technical reasons, not just straight evil. But they'll use it for some shit, though. I mean, guaranteed.
In Nintendo news, it looks like they're going to be porting Kingdom Hearts to the Switch, which, congratulations, Switch users, you'll be able to play those. Metroid Prime 4 developers are looking for some tools engineers. There was some buzz on Twitter from Retro Studios about all of that. I guess they've posted stuff on some sites about looking for some new staff for that, which is, I guess, good to see that Metroid Prime 4 is still being developed, but it's been a while, so I'm not really holding my breath on that one. Pokemon Legends has been released and is getting some pretty good record sales going on for that. So, is that one that you picked up, Mel? Did you pick that one up, or your kids?
I have it on Switch. I have not played it, and my one kid who's a Pokemon fan hasn't played it yet.
And in weird tech news, interesting tech news, unique tech news, the Elgato company has put out a pedal, so that you can, do stuff with your deck via the pedal, mute, unmute, change scene, whatever you want to kind of program your pedal to do. This isn't anything like unlike the other, third-party pedals you can get out there for your PC to have as extra buttons to do things hands-free with. So congratulations, Elgato. Windows 11 is finally they had mentioned this before they launched 11, but the Android support is actually coming. So it looks like they're going to be bringing an update soon that'll actually start doing the support for Android apps on Windows 11, which I'm looking forward to checking out. I'm really excited about that one. Let's see, what else we got here, Malified?
Let's see. We've got this guy posted a video of him playing with his mouse after he modded it to cut the back off because he felt it was unnecessary. Basically, there are multiple styles of gripping the mouse, and so one of them is people kind of float their hand above the mouse and just push the buttons.
Yeah, it's like the claw. Yeah,
the claw. Yeah, so I guess that was his.
There's claw and palming.
Right. So he was a claw player, I guess, but it was just kind of a silly quote where he was saying, "I don't need the effing back of the mouse." So, okay, enjoy.
Yeah, I will say that my hand never actually touches the top of the mouse like the way that I play. I'm Dr. Claw. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know anybody that actually like puts the weight of their hand on the mouse.
I don't either, but like I also don't claw it. So like I would say the right side of my hand, where like my ring and pinky are, rest on the mouse, and the side where my index and middle finger are, that's raised up some.
So it's basically you're gripping the mouse between your pinky and your thumb, right?
Right, but like half my hand
the
rests.
Ring finger.
Yeah, but half my hand rests, so.
Oh. Rests where?
On the mouse.
Okay.
So I'm using my pinky, ring finger, and thumb, not just my pinky and thumb. So makes any sense.
Yeah, but that's kind of the claw thing, right? Cause...
Yeah, but it's not up though. Like I'm not like, I mean, have you seen, like, I've seen people that just like they only their fingers, only literally the tips of their fingers ever touch the mouse.
Okay. Yeah, that's me. I mean, it's like no part of the rest of my hand other than fingertips is touching the mouse.
Yeah, I
But
don't do
it doesn't feel like, yeah. And I've had mice before that were like bigger. That, you know, it's like if the mouse like comes up to where my hand is, then sure. But it's I'm using a Logitech G305, which is like a pretty small gamer mouse anyway.
All right,
yeah.
we're gonna close out on these two funny things here. There's a mod that makes Kratos the god of dad jokes. Gotta love.
Oh yes,
that's an excellent mod.
That's why PC ports are important, folks.
That's 100% correct.
We will fix your game.
And then we're gonna end on an NFT snafu here. Unofficial Minecraft NFT game Blockverse disappears with more than $1 million.
Well, bye.
Yeah, this is exactly why I think the people have problems with NFTs, right? You know, companies and like these weird influencers are all getting in on NFTs, and NFTs are just I think NFTs are going to be a cancer. That's just my personal opinion. Doesn't reflect those of the management.
It'll be terrible until one game figures out how to actually do something useful with it. But until then, it's just like, we're going to put NFTs in our game. Okay, what are they going to do? We don't know yet. But we're going to put, you know, it's a buzzword. It's like 3 letters that we have to say because it makes our stonky.
Very much so. Well, that's going to do it for us for the news for today. There's a lot of it, and there's even more discussions about all of these things going on over on our Discord server. So if you want to roll on over to discord.otherworlds.gg, you'll get there. When you do, make sure you react to the little controller emote and get yourself a roll into the server and join in on all the conversations. That's how we kind of block all of the Bitcoin spam bots that come out there, so that way we don't have to deal with that. So it's kind of our little gatekeeping on having to manually manage all that. So come on over and have a little chat with us about all things games. We'll see you guys next week. This has been episode number 46.
Yeehaw.